Hi, everybody. Today we're going to talk about future of work, and it's a topic that has been talked about a lot post-COVID. So we'll just we're going to talk a little bit. We're going to delve a little bit more than what we've been hearing. So we have some experts on our team. None of us are experts, but we do have our acumen and we do have our knowledge that we're gonna share today. So please do not treat us as experts, and we are faulty. We will make mistakes, so please bear with us. So today's topic is. Let me give you a brief on what we're going to talk about. We have the overview of the current job market. That's the first topic. Then we have the impact of automation and AI on work, the rise of remote work and its future outlook, skills and competencies that will be in demand in the future, preparing for the future of work, tips and strategies. And we would end with something that I think most people would look forward to, with an interactive Q&A. There you could ask questions to anybody in the audience, and you could engage any of our speakers. So a brief on our speakers today. Our first speaker is going to be Kevin. Kevin is he is actually a research specialist. Like you see on the board, he works for a research specialized company. Then you have we have Dan. Dan is he's the founder for Radical. He's actually also the co-founder for. He actually also was started Modern Survey, and they were acquired by Aon. So we have Kevin, who's going to talk a lot about. He's going to go a deep dive into the research behind all this, because that's his specialty. Dan's going to talk about human-centric workplaces. Marcus is our guru from Switzerland, and he's going to talk about AI, RPA, the automation part of everything. We have Floyd. I think, I don't know whether you all were there in the last webinar. You guys probably know Floyd from there. He's the director for Wellsprings. He's been in the Middle East for many, many years. And he has an ocean of knowledge in HR. So Floyd, I think, would probably talk about tips, strategies to handle today's future for work. And Dr. Sandeep is gonna, like we say, without a sound mind, nothing can really happen. Dr. Sandeep is he's a psychiatrist. He's a well-known psychiatrist in India. He will talk about the mental aspect of today's upheavals at the workplace. And Professor Mani, he couldn't make it today. He's got an episode of laryngitis, so he's actually lost his voice. So there really couldn't be anything he could do for today. So we had to let him go, very sadly. Okay, so so we shall start off now. I would, and like it says here, I have been in HR for some years, and welfare. And today, I'm the coordinator and probably the one who's going to be stitching the conference around, the webinar around, like Dan says. Okay, so let's take off. So the audience is, I think we still need to catch up a little more. Yeah. So go to the next slide. Yeah, I think I shall hand over the talk to Kevin. Kevin, if you could take over.
Sure. Hi, thanks, Bissy. Happy to. And hi, everyone. So what I want to do very quickly, and Bissy, do you want me to show from my screen instead of from the general screen here?
Oh, sorry, okay. Sorry, I was muted. Whatever you're comfortable with.
Okay, all right. So why don't we just have you, this will make it a lot easier. Why don't you advance through these? I just wanted to share with people that we are a research firm that focuses on high performance organizations, what they're doing with their people practices. Just keep going, Bissy, because we're going to make this fast. And so what I want to do is I want to just let everyone know that where we are going to go. Let's just keep looping through this, Bissy. Okay.
The next one.
All right, here we go. You know what I'll do? If you stop your screen share, there we go. I'll show from mine, and then I will go at rapid pace here. Here we go. All right. So what I want to do very quickly is just to discuss a couple of things. One is what we've seen is that the future of work really has been altered forever. It's been researched. There have been many trends, mega trends that have been happening, but over the last few years, it's the confluence of these trends that have significantly altered everything. And there's really two that I want to highlight, and I think it sets up really well what Marcus is going to talk about. The first is acceleration, accessibility of technology. Basically, what I wanted to share is not our data point, but it comes from McKinsey. This is a study they did in 2021 where they studied this, or they had several hundred business executives around the world respond, and only 11% said that they believe that their current business model would be economically viable through 2023, which is stunning. 64% of those said that they would need to adopt some kind of digitization in order for it to be economically viable. And so, Marcus, there you go, buddy, teeing you up like crazy there. And then what I also want to do here, though, is focus on the last one. It's worker demand for control and flexibility. We've been seeing this in our research for a decade. It's not going away. On the right-hand side, what I want you to see is this, that there are elements that we see in our research that when it distinguishes high performance versus low performance organizations, high performers are in blue, low performers are in gray. These are the best performing organizations over the last 5 years in revenue, profitability, customer satisfaction, and market share. The elements proven to attract talent. Twice as many high performers, 80% indicate flexibility in work. And then you can see other aspects, internal mobility, coaching and mentoring, a holistic approach to well-being, which really tees up Dan very well. And then, of course, you've got technology that allows you to have access and to be able to basically accomplish most types of work effectively from just about anywhere. And what's really interesting on the left-hand side is they just conducted a study over in the UK, and 3/4 of managers are now indicating that they believe flexible work actually increases productivity, let alone the motivation. And so we believe flexible work is here to stay. And what we found in our own research is that companies need to go maximal flexibility. It leads to healthier cultures within organizations. We have that proven in our research. I'll show you in just a moment. We see that companies that have offered more flexibility have much higher levels of overall workforce well-being as well. And what we're talking about here is not just flexibility for schedules and where work is done, when work is done, but it's how work gets done. You can see here, this is a model that we know high performance organizations are striving to pursue. And basically what it's showing is how they are basically looking at different talent pools and being able to pull capability, whether it's external talent rotations, whether it's robots and AI, maybe it's crowdsourcing from the public, whether it's talent rotations across military, let's say, or looking at underserved populations from older workers to people with intellectual and developmental disabilities, et cetera. How can we get capability where and when we need it to meet our needs? The healthy culture is the critical piece. You can see here that organizations that report a healthy culture, we just published this 10 days ago, report overall much greater business gains in so many ways, from better wealth, diversity and representation to employee engagement scores to better productivity. In fact, I wrote about this just a little while ago, that culture health is a new proxy for productivity in the workplace. And what we have found is that organizations that describe their cultures as unhealthy, actually, they were saying it was somewhat toxic or very toxic, are 16 times more likely to cite distrust in senior leaders. So what I want to share with you is this: leaders are the linchpin to a healthy culture. They lead by example. This is a next practice number 2, which means that we are putting our name on it as a research firm and saying Not many companies that all do this, but those that do will be the ones that will be well ahead going forward. And that's holding your leaders accountable for not only business outcomes, but employee outcomes, for engagement, for attrition, for retention, for well-being aspects, for internal talent mobility instead of hoarding talent, etc. And what do these leaders look like? This is a slide here that shows you different culture traits that we've studied across the world. In the blue, fit cultures represent this. So collaborative, 56% of companies that our research shows have fit, healthy cultures have a collaborative culture. Only 13% of unfit cultures have a collaborative culture. That's how to read this particular research. You can see the different types of leader traits as well as employee traits that are aligned with those types of cultures. And what I want to show you in this slide is that there are many different, we did a study of 70 leaders, actually 69 leadership behaviors for the future of work. We did this 15 months ago, and there were only a few that stood out as being the ones that really helped the healthy cultures and the high performance organizations through the pandemic that are going to be much more representative going forward. And you can see, if you want an inclusive culture, these leaders proactively engage remote team members as well as in person. They actually design work meetings for those that are remote so that they have the same, if not better, experience. You'll also see that inclusive proactively listen and seek out understanding of other people's opinions. At high-tech companies in particular, this has been critical because oftentimes that's a zero-sum game, know-it-all type of culture. Healthcare as well. And you see the best healthcare institutions where leaders, even department chairs, are the ones saying, what do you know? Tell me what you know. I'm the expert here, but it challenged me as well because I haven't been in school for 30 years and you know the latest and greatest. And so what you'll see here is various leadership traits that align with where people are going. What I wanted to end up with, and I apologize I have to be so quick here, but I'll be joining for the Q&A, is this is coming out of the World Economic Forum. This is published in 2020. It's their 2025, actually 2020 Future of Jobs report, but it looks out to 2025. And what they say is that 50% of the world's employees will need to be upskilled or reskilled by 2025. And these are the top skills that they anticipate from an employability standpoint. And you can see so much of this has to do with technology, but so much more of it has to do with active learning, if you would, being that learn it all, always relearning, social influence, your social skills. Our research 10 years ago with the University of South Carolina came out and found that the definition of a leader had evolved 10 years ago to being around influence and collaboration, and that the quote unquote softer or social side of leading had the greatest variability on leadership effectiveness on a global basis. But it took a pandemic to usher in the humanity, the humanocracy, if you would, or humanity of leadership, which tees up Dan just a little bit. So I just wanted to lead you with a research insight. These are 4 predictions we've made for the coming year around human capital. And what I wanted to share is only 2. One is that a healthy culture produces or creates a recession-proof organization. Yes, they may need to course correct, but if they focus on a healthy culture, they will come out of this and they will not suffer the dips as much as those that don't. Secondly, flexibility becomes, at the best organizations, a strategy, not a concession, not a privilege of a few. And so I wanted to lead everyone with that, and I turn it back to you, Bissy. Thank you, everyone. I'll join you for Q&A.
Thanks, Kevin. We'll see you back at the Q&A. Kevin's got to address an audience in Canada, a 200 strength audience, I think, so he's got to leave. All right, so our next speaker is Dan. Dan, I think I've already introduced Dan. Dan's gonna talk about a human-centric culture. So here we go, Dan, go ahead.
Perfect, thanks everybody. I am sharing my screen. So while we do that, let's make sure everyone can see it. Perfect. Well, I'm assuming everybody can see my slides.
Yes, Dan, we
panelists?
can. Just
Perfect.
make it centered.
Awesome. So thanks everybody. Really happy to be here. I loved what everything Kevin had to say. Especially around the collaboration piece, and I'm going to talk about that in a little bit. One of the things we talk about at Radical, and I'll give a brief introduction of Radical, is how do we build connections and really make people feel connected at work. And there's a difference between being connected with your team and people you work with versus just connections that right? With connections, you know who they are, you might know a little bit about them, but if you're connected and you understand and you have you're able to bring your whole person and your whole self and into moments and situations, that builds a sense of connectedness. And so we'll talk about that in a bit. So I really appreciated what Kevin talked about. I want to first start by talking a little bit about Radical. Like I said, about 40 seconds here. I am the co-founder of Radical, and at Radical, we believe inspired change is possible, right? We believe in the power of radical thinking, and we believe in tolerance and trust and empathy and connections, as I was talking about, and the importance of courageous leaders and being courageous and transparency and caring and love, right? Bringing love back into the workplace. And we believe in the whole person experience. And this means inviting and celebrating everything about each other into the workplace. And we believe in the importance and the non-negotiable reality that we must do better. We must do better in creating a human-centered workforce within our organizations. And if we get all of this right, through all of this, inspired change is possible. So switching slides, Kevin alluded to this. The world's been changing a lot over the past 3 years. I've been working in this industry for 25 years now, aging myself. But wow, what has happened over the past 3 years? And the world continues to change around us, right? So it hasn't changed. It is fluid. It's continuing to spin. This is ongoing. Things haven't come to a stop. And I'm an optimist, right? I'm a self-proclaimed optimist. And being an optimist isn't always as easy as it seems, right? We have to actually find opportunity in challenging moments. We have to find the clarity in the chaos. And we have to find the best of humanity, even when sometimes it's blurry. So this is going to be my ask of all of you when I get to the end of the presentation. But the good news is I always believe in humanity, and I because I've seen the positivity and the power of what people are capable of. Even just looking back over these past 3 years, the changes we all had to go through and live through, and the way new leaders rose up. And I call these new leaders, how can I help you, leader? Not how can you help me, right? So it became this a sense of caring and love really came into the workplace. So with that said, I want to start with a poll, and Bissy, I don't if you have the polling, that would be fantastic.
Yes, Dan, we have it. I'm just gonna do it. Okay, Kevin, could you put it in presentation mode, because your slides are kind of contracted? So you could just expand them and put them in presentation mode. I'm just going to put the poll after you do.
I will do that.
So once you're done, should I present the poll? Okay, I'm going to present the poll, okay?
Yeah, and based on my setup, apologize everybody, I'm going to need to keep it in, and I'm just going to
No, it was in presentation mode earlier, just a second ago.
Yep, I know, but if we can keep it like this, that will be great.
Okay,
perfect. So so I want to quickly ask with an important question is how are you doing, right? And this is a question we need to ask more of each other, and it's really simple. It's green, I'm feeling great, things are great. Yellow, I'm average, things could be better. And red, things aren't so great. And I would love to, and I think this poll that might be up was maybe linked to Kevin, but which is a great question. I can talk about it. How committed to flexible work is your employer? Everyone can feel free to answer that. And when the second poll comes up, I would love everyone just to share in a safe place. Now, how are you feeling, right? Are you feeling green? Are you feeling yellow? Are you feeling red? So we'll let that poll come up in a
Dan,
moment.
I'm just gonna launch the poll because there was some error. Just hang on one second.
That's okay. We can, I want to.
Okay. Is that stressed out at work? Was that yours? No.
No, another great question, but that's okay. Why don't we just keep rolling here? And yeah, these are, I think.
Yeah, actually, Dan's poll would be probably the next question. Can you? This is the poll that I wanted to show, actually. Yeah, no problem. So you.
So everyone, let's just keep going with the polls, and it's really, I just want to empower everybody to ask that question of your team and your people, right? Just that simple question of how are you doing, and take that moment to listen. And if someone's red or someone's yellow, do what you can to bring them back to green. And that's really why I wanted to ask that question. It's for you to answer, but most importantly to use with your team and within your organization and with friends and family, right? Just that simple, how are you doing question. So I want to share a personal story about change and really the importance of how do we build a human-centric workforce. And this, from my perspective, personally summarizes it well and why I'm so passionate about this. I was one of the founders of Modern Survey, which Bissy stated, and back in the day, we were employee engagement, end-to-end tech solution, a holistic talent lifecycle measurement platform. But really fast, in 2008, a while ago, a recession hit, and many startups in that time had to make tough calls, right? It was very challenging for startups. We were about 40, 50 employees at the time. And one thing about us is we believed passionately in our purpose, and we believed in what we did and why we did it, right? And we believed in our people, and we did believe in ourselves. We had to, of course, but the economic realities put us in a tough spot. So after careful consideration, we made decisions, and our incredible team around us, we realized we're the most important thing. And we knew this already, but when you have to think about how do you survive, you have to look at everything, right? Do we downsize? Do we cut costs? But we knew while so many other companies were cutting costs or people were shutting their doors, we took a different approach, right? We continued to believe in our greatest asset, our greatest weapon, our greatest strength, our people, right? The humans that we surrounded ourselves with. So in order to keep every person on the team, we decided as founders of the company, my partners and I, not to pay ourselves for a while. And it wasn't something that we shared. It was something we did. And after time, it was an interesting reality happened, right? We knew we wanted to stay intact. Again, we didn't communicate this, but word got out, as it does in a small company. And employees, after employee, started to walk into our offices and ask for pay reductions, right? In each carefully considering what they could afford. But I still get emotional thinking about this. And imagine someone walking into your office saying, I would like a pay reduction. And who does this? And I thought about this over the years. And our people believed in what we believed, right? And sacrificing short-term pay for something greater, for something more meaningful. But they were doing this for each other, right? They weren't doing this for us. Right? They were doing this for their teams, and they were doing this for all employees because they knew this is the way we could all stay together, right? This is the way our family would remain intact. And that was over the years, thinking through this, that became just really shaped me as a leader and a voice in this space. And then what happened on the back end? We survived. In fact, we thrived and we bounced back, and everyone was paid back, of course. And then we started to grow at speeds we could have never imagined, right? And so when I say, and I'm going to talk about this in a little bit, revenue and profitability and shareholder value, that these are outcomes of doing right by your people. I say all this because I lived it, right? If your commitment of change is we need to drive revenue, we need to drive profitability, and that's your starting point, I'm asking everyone now to change that mindset. Take care of your people. The outcome of that is everything you want. It doesn't mean you don't need great strategy, and it doesn't mean you don't need great product. And of course you need to be managing revenue and profitability, but you have to start at taking care of your people. You have to start at building a human-centric workforce. And today, again, if not for this selfless decisions that so many of our people made, I would not be here speaking to all of you. And so I am forever grateful, and I will always believe in the power of humanity, right? In the power of creating a human-centered workforce. So I wanted to share some of these with everybody. And
Dan, do you mind? I can just release the poll now. Is that okay?
Yep. We can do it real fast. Would love to see how everyone's feeling. That's great.
Goes.
So again, green, you're feeling great. Yellow, yeah, average. Red, things could be better. Good. Green seems to be in the lead. Yellow's kind of we have a tie. So we'll let a few more people answer. Green is taking over. I like that. That's good. We like green. And I always like when red is in last place. But those of you who are red, again, we are all here for you. And I hope that maybe we can move you to yellow or green throughout the next hour and a half. And thanks for sharing this. Again, this is something I recommend doing with your teams, within your organizations, and being really upfront and honest about how you feel is such an important part of building a human-centric workforce. So thank you. But 46%, almost half of you are green. So fantastic. Thanks for sharing, and thank you, Bissy, for bringing that up. So long-term success is, as we've talked about, is kind of really isn't found in being profit-centered, right? Long-term success is found in being human-centered. So when we talk about this, we have to also think about what is humanity in business. And I want to quickly go through that. I'm going to close this poll down. There we go. What is humanity in business? And that's focusing on people more than the algorithm, right? Humanity in business is not focusing on the newest platforms or shining graphs. And Marcus is going to be next. And I have a couple minutes left, so I'm going to move fast here. He's going to talk about technology. And I'm a technologist at heart. And I will say technology is so critical, and what we can do with technology. And I'm sure you, of course, hearing about new AI and chat GPT and just the new bots that are out there, and there's incredible technology out there. But I will say this, we have to have a strategy of why we're using new technology within organizations, right? If we're just transitioning to something new without a transformation mindset, we're just going to end up in the same place. So there is incredible technology that we have to harness and leverage, but it has to be based on a strategy and purpose of why we're using it. And I know Marcus will talk about this, and also just share some of the incredible change in how fast technology is changing. So also building a culture of a human-centric workplace requires relationships and human relationships. And this requires communication and being present. And a lot of this is picking up on what Kevin said earlier, right? So we need to create situations that inspire connection and collaboration. And we have to put people first always. And we have to provide power to your people with empathy, humility, compassion, and love. And I say this to so many of our clients that Radical works with. Purpose must become a renewed organizational value, right? What do you stand for? Right? What are you solving for? What's your why? That has to be an organizational value. And we must continue to reimagine how we work. Obviously, with hybrid work and the changes that we've seen, we have to reimagine that, but we have to do that with the human always top of mind. At the end of the day, we're just human beings coming together, trying to do incredible things together. So I want to be just at 15 minutes. So I just want to end by kind of giving you about a minute statement around some of the two words that I think are critical for 2023. And as our journeys continue, and these words are trust and context. And I was thinking about this morning. So sorry, I don't have a slide on this, but bear with me. This is just words and things that are on my mind. And both of these words and concepts hold true for personal relationships and family, and of course, the workplace, right? And trust is the highest form of human motivation and inspiration, right? We know this. And with trust, we can show up with more empathy, and we can move from modifying the content to better understanding the context of any given moment, right? Context is so important. So again, modifying the content to better understanding the context if we have a culture of trust. And with this, right, this gives us the support and knowledge and confidence to show up as the finest versions of ourselves, right? So I hope you can all take away, a few things from this. Let's take care of each other. Let's put people first. Let's understand that success of our business is based on building a human-centric workforce, taking care of our people, focusing on collaboration, focusing on connectedness, caring more, loving more, and making sure everyone is as green as possible, as often as possible. So thank you. And I want to hand it back to Bissy, and I know she'll hand it over to Marcus, and he has some super cool stuff to talk about when it comes to technology trends. So thank you, everybody. And have a wonderful rest of the day as well. And looking forward to Q&A later.
Yes, thanks, Dan. An amazing session. Excellent. Human-centric, something that we all need to really talk about, and the world should be headed that way. So an excellent exposure, an excellent brief. I wouldn't say, I think it is pretty intense, I would say. I mean, amazing session. So now Marcus is our man who's going to talk about AI automation. So the stage is all yours.
So
Marcus.
Thanks a lot. So I'm sharing. Do you see my screen? Good, great.
Yes, we do. Yeah, we do.
Okay, perfect. So let's get started with technology. Yeah, I go now into another direction of the new place of work, of the new world, how it's running. And I just want to share with you 3 stories. And 3 stories about, what I think and what we believe is the future. It's a vision. It's an idea. It's not something which will come 100%, but it's something which is on the way and which goes into a very exciting direction and which will influence us all, how we work today, how we collaborate today, how we communicate today. And that's why it's a big change on the way. You all remember the COVID time, and we heard that already today. It changed a lot. And nobody before this time was thinking that companies can adapt and change that fast and be ready to work in a virtual world and connect their people all around the world, sitting at home, working at home. And that was a big thing. That was a big disruption, I would say, even. And we learned so much in that time and changed so much. And this was an accelerator for technology all around the world. And we heard from Dan before, we heard that people matter. And I think that's an important point when we talk about technology. Technology is all about people, and technology is all about how can it be connected with people? How can people use technology, and how can culture use technology? Culture is a very big point here, because when we think of culture, culture can kill technologies. And that's very fast happening. That's very often
Marcus,
happening,
I think
and
your
that's
slides
why.
are not moving.
Yeah, I'm just on the first one. I'm just moving soon.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
That's okay. And yeah, that's the point of connecting people and technology. If we look into what I want to start with a quote of a futurist and the chief engineer of Google from very long time ago. It's more than 20 years ago, and this guy said, at this point of time, we won't experience 100 years of progress in the 21st century. It will be more than 20,000 years of progress. And I don't know exactly if it's 20,000 years or if it's a little bit less, but the progress is fast and the progress is accelerating. And what we see at the moment in the markets and in technology with, in the last months, ChatGPT, with blockchain technology, with AI technology, with advanced analytics, what is happening there is just incredible, and it offers so many opportunities and so many direction and so many ideas what we can bring forward, and what changes also the way we work in the future. And I think what's very important is, and we heard also something about that before, what's important for us human. And we heard this study before. I think it was in the first talk about, what do people need? What do people and companies need in the next years? And if we look at that, then it's shifting from let's say, impressive career history, how it's in that quote, to curiosity, to learning, to continuous growth and learning. And jobs changes, and they will change a lot. That means a lot of jobs will be disappeared. And that's a quote, about 85% of the jobs will not exist anymore in 2030. There are different studies about that, you know it better. And that makes us, that makes it important to be on the change path, to change all the time. Even if I look back in my experience, when I look back the last 10 years, what I've developed and what I've learned in terms of technology, the stuff I learned 10 years ago is not relevant anymore. Nobody uses that anymore. So you have to learn constantly. You have to change constantly. I will come now to these 3 stories, these 3 directions I want to share with you. And the first one is the workforce is global. And I will tell you the story of Quarero. Quarero is one of our startups. And what we do is we connect students and companies worldwide. And that's a big thing, because we bring in very young people into the corporate world, unexperienced people, and students which are just getting started to know how the real world, the company world ticks. And what we do is, companies have problems. Every company has tasks and challenges to solve. So, for example, you need a marketing concept. You need to program a new app for your sales team. You need a chemical analysis. It doesn't matter in which direction it goes. And you put this information into this platform, and we connect you worldwide with the matching students. And imagine now how that works. You are a Swiss company, you are local, you had until now your local market. So you had your employees from around the region, and we change now this complete setup. So that's a big thing for a lot of companies, and we experienced this since about 2 years now. We started that project 2 years ago, and we see that the diversity and inclusion brings in a lot of creativity. These companies have now access to people from Asia, from South America, from all around the world, and can use people for more creativity, for more innovation. And that's exciting to see what's happening there in a small world, in the end, in a local world, in local areas, in countries, when you connect them with the world. And the target or the direction is now that companies search for the best people worldwide. That's a big change, what we didn't see before Corona. And also what's also changing, and that's a big thing we learned, that the tasks and the work the students do is outcome oriented. It's not hourly based. So companies want to have an outcome. They want to have a running application. They want to have a final concept. They want to have a new website, whatever it is, but they don't care about these hours anymore. And so what we see are often projects, build me an application, and the people build the application and get in the end a salary for that whole application, and not just for some hours. On the other side, what we also experience there is, it's also the complexity of politics, which is still in this world, and which is not ready for working internationally very easy. So if you think of taxes, global VAT, if you think of legal topics, if you work together now with a student in South America, it's another legal dimension than if you work with students in North America. So these are all challenges, and we have built solutions also for that, integrated into the systems, so that the companies can react and act quite quickly. And that's a big change we see on the way, and I believe we are just getting started with that. So the second trend, the second story I will tell you, is about the hybrid world and virtual spaces. So imagine you work today, or you use today social networks. You use LinkedIn, you use all these kind of social networks, but it's somehow very written. So it's, you write your stuff, you don't talk a lot. And that's our idea, that this will change. So imagine if you could meet people in virtual places, in virtual spaces, business people. If you meet your suppliers, if you meet your colleagues, and you work together, like, for example, in like a real office, you have a whiteboard, you can watch together a video, you get your information, and even your systems are connected. And this idea is a kind of metaverse of business. So the metaverse, where you can connect and collaborate in a very easy way. And these things will boost up and help us more with connecting the people better and easier. And I have here a graphic about a metaverse and the directions. And of course, we look on the business side. We don't look so much on the gaming side and these other areas. For us, relevant is the working side and the business side. And it's just getting started. We are on the starting point, and there is so much to come. It's really a big thing on the way, and we will see how that will evolve, and that can include a lot of topics and a lot of things which are also then connected to your corporate processes. And that brings me to the third story. That's really a connection there already. And I think one of the most exciting things that's happening at the moment, and my slide is stopping. There it is. And that's what we see with ChatGPT at the moment, what's happening there in the world. And in the end, we call it a personal artificial intelligence assistant, and that's another startup we work on. It's Aviana, and our vision is that we connect virtual avatars. So that means avatars which are perhaps in your metaverse, perhaps on your smartphone, perhaps in an augmented world, to corporate processes and systems. So what does that mean? You have in very complex systems in all companies. So you have ERP systems, you have CRM systems, you have HR systems, of course, and it's highly complex to get the data out of them. And what we try at the moment, and that's still a lot of R&D work, we connect these avatars with the first ERP systems. We collaborate there with companies at the moment. And then the idea is to get out data with your language. So what does that mean? Imagine you are a head of production, and you get up in the morning, you get out of your house and you go into your car, and yeah, you just remember, oh, I need some production information. So you just talk onto your phone and ask, what's the production status? What's the capacity of today? Is the production running, or do we have some problems? And then you talk with your avatar. Your avatar gives you all the information you need and tells you production up and running, or there are some problems, whatever it is, and you get this information instantly. You don't need to have some people who go deeper and dig into the systems, grab some data, make some Excels, send you these Excels, however these processes are working today. And that's still a big vision. That's still a lot of work to do, but that's a vision we believe in. And these avatars can help you in different ways. Of course, it's not only steering your production or steering your systems, also scheduling meetings, making appointments, also talking to them about sending an email. Why should you type always? It's much easier to use our voice. Our voice is the most natural thing we have. So let's use our voice. And also starting and stopping processes, what is done today very manually. And so that's a big vision, a big idea. We are working on that, and these are my 3 trends. So first of all, if I have told you that the global workforce we believe in, and we started work on that with Quarero. Then the metaverse, which is somehow expanding and has still a huge potential to go. And then your personal assistant who will guide you, who will be your virtual friend in the future in the virtual workplace. So that's a very brief introduction, a very brief deep dive into technology. And so I think, Bissy, I can give back to you.
Yes, Marcus, can I release your poll?
Yes, you can release the poll.
Okay, I'm just launching it. Here we go.
So it's about ChatGPT. Of course, it's a trend at the moment. So I just want to know, do you think that will be used in your workplace, and will it, how will it transform the way you work in the future, these technologies? It's a clear direction. I think at the moment we have 92%. Yes. Yeah, it stays like this. Yeah, great.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's a clear direction. The people see the possibilities in the meantime with AI, and yeah, we have 92%.
I actually didn't expect 92 because I thought people do still have reservations.
Yeah. Okay, great.
Oh, the results. Okay. That's 92% yes and 8% no.
Yeah, very clear.
Yeah. Okay, so thank you, Marcus, for the amazing session on trends. It was extremely enlightening. I think a lot of it is probably what we have never heard. So thank you for knitting it all together. Thank you so much,
You're
Marcus.
welcome.
It was an amazing session.
Thank you.
Okay, now, yeah, thank you. So now we have Floyd. Floyd's going to talk generic, and he's going to, his idea, his viewpoint. So it's probably may echo similar to the other topics that we've spoken about, but it is Floyd's unique way of conveying what he feels is future of work. And he would probably conclude with tips and strategies. It's going to be intertwined. All right, Floyd, over to you.
Thank you, Bissy. Just want to check if you can see the screen.
Yeah, Floyd, you need to maybe presentation mode.
Yep.
Oh yeah, that's perfect.
Good to go. Okay, good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. We love sharing with you what we know to the same extent that we love learning from you what you know. So to begin with, we've all grown up in this age of Drucker, right? The father of modern management. And when we start speaking about the future of work, we should not forget what is the purpose of work, right? We all work within a business. So there is a context to the future of work. So like Drucker says, the purpose of a business is to create and keep a customer. Again, to repeat, to satisfy the customer is the mission and purpose of every business. And that's why we have jobs, why we get paid, because the customer experience is critical. And of course, like we are hearing now, the employee experience is a key driver of customer experience. So once again, like Drucker says, business purpose and business mission are so rarely given adequate thought. That's probably the most important cause of frustration and failure. So what is all this trying to get us to? Okay. The future of work must still fulfill the mission and purpose of the business. So Marcus did talk about fantastic technology. Dan did talk about a human-centric organization. Kevin did give us a lot of relevant and updated information and research, but all is leading to the same purpose, right? To fulfill the mission and purpose of the business. Now, maybe some of us feel, Drucker, okay, we know Drucker, but let's look at the other end of the spectrum, right? Something we all grew up with, good old Santa Claus, right? And then what happens if the reindeer says, everyone wants to work from home? No Christmas, no toys, right? So again, just to reinforce the point from two ends of the spectrum, one extremely serious Drucker, one extremely joyful and not so serious Santa Claus. But let's understand the key lining, right? The future of work must still fulfill the mission and purpose of the business. Now, moving forward from there, to add to what Marcus has said recently, he spoke about virtual spaces. Now, going by the Gartner research, it says that fully virtual workspaces will be 30% in what people are investing. And then just imagine what happens in 2027. Marcus said that by 2030, 85% of the jobs that exist have not yet been invented. So that's the way we are heading. Now, look again, okay? Again by Gartner, by 2025, and that's 2 years from now, most of us will still be employed. It says 40% of organizations are looking at talent strategy, but now acquisition of resilience. So it's the resilience within the workforce to be able to handle the unpredictable future, which is going to make the difference to the organization and to its customers. So where does that lead us? Now look again, okay? This is the future of work by Gartner again. And if you notice, these are the 9 future of work trends, okay? Where we are talking about alleviating the pressure on managers. Marcus talked about avatars and the future. Okay, we are talking, if you look at number 5, it is employee mental well-being. So the human-centric, which Dan talked about, is very evident in what's happening around us. And what does this now mean for HR leadership? I'm under the assumption many of us here are in the HR field. And even if we are not, what do you see? You see that number 5 is 42% in terms of priority. Number 5 is the future of work. So having looked at all this, what we are realizing is that the future of work is going to make a significant difference. And the person who's going to play a significant role is the individual. Why? Because in an environment where we really don't know what's coming at us, the only thing that will take us through is our ingenuity and innovation. Now it's innovation and implementation that makes the difference. And add to that mix integrity. Of course, if you have a competent person without character, then different things happen, right? So going forward again, this is not something that is limited to a few people. I'd like to speak from Harvard Business Review. This is a recent article on the future of work. And they said there are going to be 3 important dimensions which is going to influence our work, okay? And the new employment deals. So it's interesting, we're talking about the new employment deal, okay? On 3 dimensions: creating a shared purpose, radical flexibility. I'm sure they were thinking of Dan's company when they talked about radical, right? They're looking at radical flexibility and deeper connections between an employer and the organization, okay? It's no longer the patriarchal system. It's no longer command and control. Times have changed. Leadership needs to change because the results and the context in which we are going to deliver results has changed. Like Marcus said, the culture is in the important factor. And so what do these 3 mean for us? In a quick summary, okay? When we talk about number 1, which is creating a shared purpose, organizations now need to look at diversity, equity, and inclusion. We've heard a lot about this, but actions don't match it. Okay, I don't want to get into the details given the importance of what we want to talk about overall, but this is a key priority now. Organizations will drive social change. They are not into manufacturing a product or giving a service. That is important, but it's beyond that. The second thing, employees. Please read that. Employees exerting more control. It's not employers. It's employees exerting more control over where, when, and how much work they do. It's changed, okay? The employee has a voice, and that voice is going to get magnified and amplified over the years that come. And organizations that stay deaf to the voice of the organization, of the employee, are the organizations that are going to be in the heap of yesterday. Okay. Next, when we talk about deeper connections, and this becomes very significant, employers becoming more involved in supporting the life experience, not just the employment experience. If you recall from the previous data that we saw from Gartner, number 5 was mental health. And for the HR managers, number 5 was the future of work. So the future of work needs to focus on the mental health of employees. So it's becoming significant as to the way organizations now view their employees, because it's no longer labor. It is an investment into the innovation and the ingenuity of the organization to be able to better manage and anticipate the future. That's where it's heading. Now, once you have such a lot of change coming at you, you need to be able to adapt quickly and, more importantly, accurately to this change, which is called agility. And from the father of modern HR, Dave Aldrich, what he talks agility, he says it's a different context of agility, right? It's not just agility, one word for everything, but it means strategic agility, choosing where to compete because the playing field keeps changing, different rules, different competitors. If you look at Porter's model, there are different things where he talks about substitutes, the power of the buyer, the customer, entry barriers, exit barriers, etc. All that needs to be factored in. Organization agility. How do we create an agile organization? Talking about what Dan said, human-centric, talking about culture, which is what Marcus said, talking about the research that came through, in what Kevin said. What is the new leadership? Again, what the previous speakers have spoken about. And most importantly, individual agility. At the end of the day, like drops make an ocean, it's the employees that make an organization. We cannot afford to forget that. If an organization is agile, okay, they are successful. But what makes agile organizations? It is people, agile people who make agile organizations. And how do people become agile? When do people choose to become agile? That's the key question. And if you go by the Gallup poll, which looks at the use of strengths, the agility of the organization is largely defined by how it chooses to place to its strengths, right? And this is a research done by Gallup, which says that if a person plays to their strengths, right, what happens? 6 times more engagement, 6 times more to have the opportunity to do the best they do every day. They report having an excellent quality of life. We talked about human-centric, we talked about mental health, we talked about the future of work, the place of work. All these are related. So what's it coming down to? Is coming down to, if an organization needs to succeed, the source of its success is going to be its employee of the future, right? And we heard such a lot happening. Now, what has also happened, if you look at the other side, we've only been talking so far about the context. But if you look at the human in this context, many of us, okay, are looking with a kind of a fear towards the future. Many of us have self-doubt. Will I survive? Will I thrive? Or will it be my demise, right? So it's important for us now to see that everything is changing around me. How do I change? Because if I don't change, I'm history, right? It makes a big difference. So Bissy, may I request you at this point to please put out the poll? I'd like to get your feedback, ladies and gentlemen, on this poll. It would help me understand better the audience and the relevance of my talk. Bissy, once you have the results, could you please let me know?
Once again, Floyd, I think I have to release it first.
All right.
Just going to do that.
Sure, sure.
Oh, okay. Is that the one?
Does it say how confident you feel of the future?
No. How committed to flexible work?
No, that's not it.
How will I respond to stressed out at work? No, that's not the one, of course. Just hang on. I think there's one here.
How confident are you to thrive in the future of work?
How confident are you? Oh, I think. Okay, you can continue. I'm just going to create that right away.
Oh,
I think we lost it. I was sure it was okay.
No problem. We can also put it towards the end. It's not an issue. It's not an issue.
Sorry about that.
No, not at all. Not at all. So what I would like to propose to you, okay, something that you can start using at the end of this session on how you can think about building up a resilient you to the future of work. Now, this is a model that my brother, who's a psychiatrist, Dr. Fabian Almeida, and we have used successfully working with clients, both corporate clients as well as individual clients. And it is a virtuous circle in the sense of there are 4 stages. Each stage builds on the other, and it helps you develop yourself and think about yourself, not just as a job title. You know, I'm a marketing professional, a financial professional, a CEO, a HR professional, but it goes beyond that, okay? Because at the end of the day, all of us are bigger than our jobs, and all of us are people with a greater purpose. So the first part of this is, who do I believe I am? Okay, I call this identity. So I am meaning you are a person, you have a purpose, you have principles, you have skills, you have relationships, you have priorities, okay? It's important for you to understand who is this I am you are. Once you have this I am, then it gives you the confidence to say, I can. What is it that I'm able to do? Okay, many of us fear the future for 2 reasons. One is we do not know the internal resources we have of resilience because they've never been tested. But just because they have never been tested, it does not mean that they are absent. So from I am, you progress to I can. Once you progress to I can, okay, this self-confidence, you start believing in yourself. And then you look at situations. You don't look at problems. Once you look at you say, this is the situation, then within the situation, you can rationally pick out the opportunity and the adversity and work with the reality that they present. So that's the important part of it. Once you have the I am and the I can, then it's what we call I stand. What does this mean? So once you know who you are, your confidence that you have in yourself, once you believe you have the skills, and if you don't have the skills, you can upgrade your skills, you can learn new skills, okay? You take some action, because like they say, you know, that a ton of intention is not worth an ounce of action. So it's always the action that beats the intention. So that's important. You need to do something. Just hoping and complaining never helps. So once you know who you are, what you believe you can do, you do something about it. And finally, it is I succeed. So the entire virtuous circle is, in a quick summary, I am, I can, I stand, I succeed. So what we would call identity, ability, activity, and victory. Now, I succeed does not mean that every time you win over or you overcome the situation you have. No, that's not what it means. Yes, often I win, but always I learn. That's the key principle underlying that. So there are times you will try and you will not succeed, okay? But that doesn't mean you're a failure. It means that what you tried didn't work. So try something different. Use what you've learned to try something different. And to do all this, what you need is a growth mindset, okay? That means my skills, my knowledge, my ability is not static. I'm a dynamic growing person. Right? I'm an eternal student. I keep learning. I keep growing till my last breath. So this is what makes a difference. In fact, I would really encourage all of you, after this is over and you go home, probably before you go to sleep tonight, think about something that you are really challenged with, or you really fear. Then look at it. Who am I in this context? Okay. Who can I be? What can I do in terms of upgrading the I can? And then before you go to sleep, write down one action point that you are going to do within the next 24 hours, which is tomorrow. And then see what happens when you do that. You don't need to have massive success just to move forward. You can do micro progression. You can move in short, small bursts. But the most important thing is to believe in yourself. Because like we heard various things that were said, when Kevin showed us, he said, amongst the top 10 requirements for the future is the resilience of the person. Dan very nicely put it by saying, how are you feeling today? And interestingly, only 46%, of course, Dan said almost 50%, I'm saying less than 50%, felt green. And then Marcus talked about the culture. Culture is your external environment. What is your internal environment to face and survive and then thrive in this external environment? So my friends, it's all starts and ends with you. So what are you doing to help yourself in this new world of work to survive? With that, I'd like to close and leave you with two thoughts. And Bissy, if you got the
yes, I'm just going to launch
poll,
it.
yeah. So while you're doing the poll, these are the two thoughts I'd like to leave you with. The way you view things is the way you do things. So what do you think about yourself and the future? And what are you going to do about it? And when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. What earlier looked as something difficult and adversity could be an opportunity in disguise. So think about these things, my friends. And I'd like to hear your views as well, because I'm also growing.
So should I? Yeah.
I guess in another few seconds and we'll close. So out of the 9 so far, we've got 6 who are very confident. That's really encouraging to hear. Another 3 who feel, guess I will make it, which is really good. I mean, nobody seems to be doubtful about the future. So that's fantastic. So we can always transition from guess I will make it to very confident once we begin to reinvent and renew ourselves and manage ourselves into the future. Thank you, everyone.
Yes, I will make it seems to have increased.
Oh, okay.
So it's almost very confident. Okay. So I'm going to end this poll. And I think, Floyd, there's one more poll that you had.
No, I just had one.
Oh, okay, sorry.
So that's interesting. We've got 6 of each now. And that's the reality, friends. I mean, the reality that faces us is that there are a lot of us who are, I wouldn't probably fearful, maybe too strong a word, but who are really concerned about what the future has in store and how can we manage in this new context of technology, of relationships, and of results. Thank you, everyone. I've had a great time sharing what I have on my mind with you. I look forward to your feedback. Thank you, Bissy, for everything.
Thank you, Floyd. That was an amazing session. You kind of traversed through myriad of ideas and views and myriad of, a lot of topics you've actually covered in that short session. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And I'd now like to hand you over to Sandeep, our dear doctor on.
Yeah, welcome, Dr. Sandeep.
Thank you. Thank you. I'll just share my screen. So glad to be part of this team and glad to interact with you all. Everyone was talking about the future of work, and we all understood that the future of work is so unpredictable. And the one thing that we can predict about the future of work is that we cannot predict much about that. And in the midst of all this turmoil and chaos, it's so important that we carry a sound mind in our sound body. And about mental health during these changing times, I just want to focus some things on stress management and what is stress and how people tend to get stressed out so easily, and how we can easily, with simple tips, can manage stress very effectively. Of course, if needed, we can proceed on to take professional help and all, but at the same time, if we can understand something about the working of our mind, how our thoughts, emotions, and our behavior are interconnected, we'd be able to manage much of the distress and the stress that we are going through. Stress, more simply, I usually, when I communicate with my clients, even the very uneducated ones also, I try to define stress in the more simplistic manner. Just like I tell them, suppose if you're carrying a burden upon your head, you feel a pressure upon your whole body, So like that, then I say the stress is what we call as the pressure upon your mind. It's just like the burden upon our mind, just like the burden upon our head. The stress is like a burden upon our mind, and it can be due to problems in life. And of course, genetic factors are there for the development of these mental health problems and all, but environmental factors, mainly stress, play a crucial role, is what all the research says. So these problems in life can be either problems in your own life, failures in your own life. In our context, it can be failures in our workplace, that you are not able to achieve results as much as you desired or targeted or anything like something like that. Failures in your own life, or it can be due to how other people, it can be problems from other people. So other people behaving in a manner that you do not like, either they do not behave in a manner that you like, or they behave in a manner that you do not like. Understood. So it can be from circumstances. So either in problems in our own life, from other people, from other circumstances. Even circumstances also two ways. Some things that we expect do not happen. Some things that we do not expect happen. Just like, even for this Zoom webinar itself, something that it took time for us to enable the chat for everyone. Something that we did not expect to happen suddenly happens. So actually, yeah. So from circumstances, from people, somebody didn't turn up on time. So, stress can be like that. Or it can be failures in our own life, our own mistake. We did some mistake. So something like that. All this can cause much stress in our system. And so to elaborate on all these three factors, it can be fights within the family, outside the family, simple, very plain terms I'm telling, which we all can relate with. Financial problems, which is very real, debt, loan. It can be loss in business or loss of a reputation. That is, we fail miserably somewhere, or some mistake in our personal life, in our public life. Loss of property, loss of relationships, loss of this love affairs, love relationship, and so many things like that. And failures in studies, job, failures in competition, failure in election, etc., etc. It is unending. It can be disease or death among our family, friends, relatives, others. Even when celebrities die, people are stressed out. Even when their close ones die, they are stressed out. Work overload at home, work overload at the place of work, and no rest. And it can be, and even unemployment, of course, is another part of the stress. Actually, people do not have any work to do. That is also stressing them out. And then this at the workplace also, many stressful things are there. Labeling at workplace, what they call gaslighting. We are labeling your manager or colleagues as, oh, he's a bipolar, he's a schizophrenic, that's why he's behaving like that. That kind of labeling at workplace, and all this can results in much stress in our system. And I was studying about this interrelationship between thought, emotion, and behavior, what we call as cognitive triangle, which is the very crux of cognitive behavior therapy by Aaron Beck. And personally, I have found this cognitive triangle very useful to simply explain how these mental health problems results and how we can tackle this stress. This simply explains these thoughts, emotions, and behavior. That interrelation simply explains the working of our mind and how we behave many a time. All of us actually has faced all these, or some of these stressful factors in our life, but all of us need not be stressed out. Why? Because many of us come out of this difficulty through faith, hobbies, support from our family, friends, like that. But what happens is that some people keep on thinking negatively. So if we look at this cognitive triangle, here the thought is there. So here I can draw negative life events. If I draw a square here, negative life events, and there is an arrow here, and there is genetic factors also playing. I can draw a small triangle here, genetic factors also here. So genetic factors are there, but when these negative life events happen, of course, actually, it is natural that we tend to think negatively. That means actually I'm a failure. I cannot succeed. I cannot make it. It is too much for me. But I quit, or but I end my life. But I, kill the person who caused this trouble. So like that, people tend to think negatively. And when they keep on brooding over this negative pattern of thoughts, when they keep on entertaining this negative pattern of thoughts, what happens is that there would be some maladaptive neurochemical changes in our brain, and that will be reflecting as negative emotions like sadness and anger and frustration. And that can reflect in our body. I should draw one another arrow here and say as bodily symptoms, like it can manifest as palpitation, increase in heart rate when you are angry, or it can be some headache. Many bodily symptoms can be there. Many bodily symptoms can be there, but there won't be any bodily causes. Without the physical cause, there will be some physical symptoms. So that is why we say mind and body are very much interrelated, mind-body relationship. So this negative emotions will reflect as even chest pain. Or, you feel that you're going to you're having a heart attack, but actually you're having only a panic attack. So, or it can be, you feel that you're, paralyzed. Or it can be just a somatoform symptom, or it can be just a dissociative symptom in psychiatric terms. And also this negative emotions can reflect in your body as many physical symptoms. And these negative emotions will reflect as negative behavior, like you feel angry at everybody, you do not want to interact with anybody, you want to shut yourself up in some room. So that will result in negative behavior, and that will reinforce the negative thoughts. You'll feel very self-pity. Oh, I am like this, or my colleagues are like that, and they have achieved how I was, and now how I am. And that self-pity thoughts and negative thoughts will be reinforced. And again, this vicious cycle, negative emotions and negative behavior. And that will result in many mental health problems, like even depression. Sometimes they get out of touch with reality, what we call psychosis, where they will have delusions and hallucinations. In our previous corporate mental health seminar, I was telling about enumerating the many symptoms of mental health and all, which is available in the YouTube even now for referral and all. Now I'll be just focusing a few minutes on the 5 steps of stress management, mainly the spiritual and psychological aspect. Physical exercise and diet, of course, everybody knows. Even psychological aspect also is much well known. But in a spiritual angle, I'll just try to say in a simple acronym of C, with a letter, with some 7 or 8 sentences starting with the letter C. I'll see how we can realign our thoughts. I was telling about this cognitive triangle. Spiritual, if I add spiritual angle to this thought pattern, what I mean by spiritual angle, I'll just explain. And then the psychological angle to this behavioral changes or behavioral modification, then there will be changes in the emotion. So first I'll tell about the spiritual aspects, meaning actually when you're feeling so much stressed out, suppose actually there is a great burden upon your head, what will you do? You'll cast off that burden. So of course, actually most of us, if not all of us, believe in some superpower. So you can cast all your burdens unto the Almighty. Some people call it nature, or superpower or some unseen force or whatever, and I prefer to call it God. So cast your burdens unto him and take it in prayer. Keep the glass down. I do not have time to explain all that, but if I keep this glass for 1 minute, it won't cause much harm to my body. But if I keep this glass for 1 hour, my hands will start aching. If it for 1 day or 1 week, or if I keep on holding it for 1 month, you cannot imagine, all our hands will become numb. So like that, even if it is a small thing, it's a small negative thought, it's a small grudge or unforgiveness about somebody, or small negative anxious thought. But if you keep on entertaining that thought, then what will happen? You will be stressed out. You will be numb. You will be emotionally numb. You won't be able to enjoy life. Won't be able to enjoy the usual pleasurable things in life. So keep the glass down. Take a break, cast your burdens, and even the hairs of a head are numbered. I do not have time to go through all that. 2 concentric circle. What I will say is that small circle, which is the present, and the larger circle where the future and the past are there. The present, we can live in the present, casting all our burdens unto the Almighty and do whatever we can at this present moment. And also we can prepare for the future rather than worrying about the future. About the past, we can learn lessons from our failures of the past rather than blaming the past and condemning ourselves. So that 2 concentric circles. Then the next C, first C I was telling about the casting of burdens. Next C is counting your blessings. Rather than seeing everything from a negative perspective, see the half glass full rather than the half glass empty. Many of you know that simple allegory that we say, if there is a cup that is half full, we can either say it is half full or half empty. It depends on the way that we look at. So don't just focus on the negative aspects or the failures alone. See the half glass full. Even if there is a dark spot on a white sheet of paper, everybody will be saying that, oh, there is a dark spot. But see the great white sheet. Of course, dark spots are there, but appreciate the white sheet of paper in your life and being grateful for the simple things that we have. Like many a time we worry about things that we do not have, but count your blessings. Name them one by one, and it will surprise you what the Lord has done. Being grateful for little things that you're able to breathe in and out. You're able to hear what I'm saying now. You're able to move your limbs, or whatever you can see, hear, and whatever even somebody here is not able to see, or whatever some handicap we have many other blessings which many other people do not have. And know that there is some control. Everything is under the sovereign control of somebody above. Without his knowledge and permission, there is a sovereign control. Without his knowledge and permission, nothing happens. And considering from everything from a higher long-term perspective, just like the things that are very large on the earth will appear very small when we look from an aeroplane. And I'm telling about this pale blue dot. Many of us would be familiar with this photo from Voyager 1 of NASA. This small pale blue dot is nothing but our Earth that we're living in. Our Earth is so huge. Now it is nighttime here in India and in US, where Marcus and Dan and Kevin and all are there. It is bright daylight and such a great globe we are part of. But it is just a tiny blue dot when compared to the whole universe. So the many big problems that we think that we have are small when we know that everything is in the control of the one who created us. So, and think about something that you're very much worrying about now. 100 years from now, will you be worried about the sleep? Even sometimes actually 2 hours from now, we won't be worrying about that. Or sometimes 2 weeks from now also, you won't be worrying about that. So when we see things from a higher long-term, larger perspective, we'll become more calmer. And consider the lesser fortunate. There are many people who are, many a time actually when clients come to me for consultation, for counseling and all, even yesterday or day before yesterday, I was telling somebody who lost their loved one, son or daughter or somebody. And I was telling, of course, I understand you're really stressed out, but of course, there are people who are suffering much more than us also on this earth. They are also living. So don't be in the pit of self-pity, but consider the lesser fortunate, be grateful, see in a positive perspective. When we realign our thoughts in that way, then there will be positive emotions also. Like when you are grateful, you'll be more happier. And see the purpose in all these trials. Crush to comfort. I use the example of this grape and wine. The grape has to be crushed to get good wine. The wheat has to be crushed to get good bread. So like that, we are going through some crushing experiences, so that when we are going through that crushing experiences, we get some gems of some experience, some comfort, some values with which we'll be able to comfort many other people in future. And we can encourage many others, saying that I have also been through many trials and failures in my life, but I made it, and you can also make it. And you will be a good counselor. Even if you're not a professional counselor, you'll be able to cheer up many hearts through your trials. So see the purpose in trials and conform to his likeness. What I mean is that I use the example of gold refined by fire. Gold is purified in fire. So even if you're going through some fiery trial, fiery stressful situation in your job right now, or uncertainty in your job, and you are worrying about the future of work, so everything has a greater purpose to make us purer, to make us stronger, and everything is to bring us closer in fellowship with the Almighty. I would say, I use the example of a little child. Suppose actually a little child is seeing something scary. What will the child do? Child will always scream and run to the parents and cling on to the parents. Like that, you cling on to your loved ones and cling on to the one who created you. So closer in fellowship, see the purpose. So with this realigning of thoughts, actually there will be more and more positive emotions in your system. And try it out, and you'll understand. And then I am focusing on in the next few minutes about the behavioral way in which we can manage stress, which we all know, hobbies, whatever be that, even in time with nature, gardening, embroidery, music, good books, and taking a break from a busy work schedule. Acknowledge our limitations, appreciate joint efforts, getting help when needed, delegating tasks to others when we can, and having good friends and guide and mentor whom we can ventilate and tell everything, and keep our minds engaged productively. That means actually idle mindset reverse workshop. If you are not doing anything, the thoughts of worry will keep barging into your hearts. But rather, keep your mind engaged productively, either with your work or with your hobbies or with your connections or whatever. And ventilate to the Almighty, ventilate to your loved ones, ventilate to your professional counsel if needed, writing a diary about what you're going through, deep breathing exercises, JPMR, Jacobson's progressive muscle relaxation exercises, which are very famous. Even the YouTube and Google, if you search, the steps are all there. Muscle relaxation, muscle groups can be contracted and relaxed in a guided manner. And there is guided imagery, which is also a very simple psychological technique to feel stress-free when we are in a stressed out situation. And about this, we were hearing about AI and robotics and how many mental health apps are there to help us to assess our mental condition, to pick up mental health symptoms and all. And sleep for preferably 8 hours, not less than 7 hours, will help in the regulations of cytokines, which will help in improve our immunity. And forgiving others, don't hold grudges. It will lessen your stress hormones levels like cortisol. Appreciate and help others, charity as much as you can. It will improve your serotonin in your system. Have good time schedule, prepare ahead, short targets and achieve, and you will have some good dopamine release. Have good family and good friends and connections, then you will have more release of oxytocin, the love hormone, the cuddle hormone in your system. And good physical exercise. I'm telling about the first and second part. Then the third point of stress management, physical exercise, of course, will release endorphins, which are good happy hormones in our system. And even after a half an hour of walk, we feel happy because there is endorphin release in our system. And if we do it in bright daylight with sunlight exposure, we will get enough vitamin D also. Vitamin D dysregulation also can cause mood swings and mental health problems, and even apart from other physical number of problems. And good diet, of course, the fourth point, avoiding the junk foods and more of fresh fruits and vegetables, good proteinaceous food, moderate non-veg, the usual things that we all hear about every day, which many people hear about but seldom practice. Then medicines also, don't be scared about psychiatric medicines. There are very good psychiatric medicines with nil significant side effects, and I prescribed in the proper manner under good supervision, and it can really help people to come out of their stress and live better quality of life. And consider troubles as challenges. Whatever troubles that come through, take it as a challenge to grow further, to become stronger. So people who haven't undergone any trouble or trials in their life will be very weaklings. They will be very weak people. But when we have undergone much trouble in our life, it can either make us bitter or better, as somebody said. So don't make the troubles make you bitter, but rather let those troubles make you better as we follow all the things that we were seeing. And together we will overcome. We are not alone. Together we are all there together, and we will overcome. Thank you. Thanks for listening.
Thank you, Doctor, for that. There is, I think we haven't released
your
poll.
Yeah, the poll also. Yeah, the poll has already been released actually, but you can.
No, I'll relaunch it because
yeah.
I think
Yeah, 31% have responded, 37% has responded, participated.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So,
Sure.
okay. Anybody else wants to say something? To make your poll.
Should I end the poll, Dr.
Yeah, you can end.
Sandeep?
Yeah.
So
Cool.
it's 89% is I think it's in the 90% in the right direction.
Yeah,
To pause, listen, use stress management strategies,
Yeah,
encourage,
of
which is
course.
a very good result.
Yeah. Just telling us to be normal won't be enough, but rather we have to pause and listen to ourselves and listen to others and seek professional help. Of course, the stress management things that we have. Thank you. So we'll go to the Q&A.
Thank you, Dr. Sandeep, for your amazing talk. It's not very often that you can have a psychiatrist on the board, and you've given us the privilege to have you. It's not easy to get them because they're always running behind people. I guess. I mean, helping people. So, thanks so much for the five stress management methods that you talked about. Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you for the session. Now we shall open the Q&A, and most of the questions seem to have come in the chats, so I'm just going to open that up. Okay. Oh.
Yeah, Q&A. You're able to see that. How could we use ChatGPT most effectively in the future?
Oh, okay. Oh, and who is it addressed to?
Not addressed specifically, but who? Not me anyway. That I'm sure.
Yeah, I think Marcus should answer that, I guess.
Yeah. Okay, I can answer that. So I think it's still early phase from the technology side. We see also things like discussions. Is it correct what these AI tools are answering? And I think it takes some more time to make it really stable and reliable. That's still a process to go. And when we are ready with that, I think it's a big opportunity to use it as a knowledge engine in the end, as a general knowledge engine. And that's for me the starting point. And then going forward into different directions, like what we talked before, also using it as a corporate knowledge engine, using it at connecting it with different APIs to different other applications. So I think there is a whole world out there which could evolve in the future.
Just to add on to that too, I mean, I love that question, and I think we're making so much progress. And I suspect if any of you have taken the time to read, if you've seen, you can probably find it, a great New York Times article that talked about a conversation someone was having with ChatGPT, kind of through Bing. And a couple of things so everyone understands how this works. In real simple form, it's forming phrases based on a lot of stuff that's out there, and it's forming responses very authoritative in nature and really thinking about what the next word is. But it's not quite to the point where it's putting it into truthful context. And I think this is really, really important. So we're doing a great job of aggregating information, but the problem is the quality of factual, truthful, authoritative answers is where we still have work to do. So like with any great new technology, tread lightly. I think we're making great steps forward, but one of two things will happen. One, we will just start to assume it's truth, which is dangerous until it's better. Or two, we're going to immediately be discouraged and assume it's not truth at all and just ignore it because it gives us back a phrase again instead of search engine results. So I think there are great ways we can start to leverage it. There's some great tech companies doing interesting work with this harnessing technology. We're on the right track. We can't stop it. Look, AI is here. Artificial intelligence is going to be a big part of science and biology and how we solve things that just individual humans can't do, where it's going to be faster than human beings. But we do have to keep it in check. And look, human beings are flawed. So the hope is we don't create an AI that's flawed as well. So I think it's interesting. I think it's going to be a big part of our businesses going forward. And again, I'm really happy to see a lot of good tech companies doing cool things with it.
Yeah, that's an amazing reply. Do any other panelists have anything to add to that? Should I repeat the question? So how could we use ChatGPT more effectively in the future?
I think maybe we can move on to the other, there's a couple more questions.
Let's move on to the next one. So the next question is, we are using really interesting stuff, Marcus. What would you say is the best technology to upskill in lines of future work? So that's for Marcus, but I think anybody could take a take. So Marcus, you can go first.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. So it's not that easy to predict what comes in the future, because, as I said before, I have learned many technologies and I've de-learned them again. So because you learn something and it disappears in a certain time, and the time frame of until it disappears is sometimes only some years. So 5 years, 10 years, something like this. It goes really fast. And we have at a open moment for sure this hype with AI. We have this hype with metaverse technologies, and we have still on a ground somewhere also the blockchain technologies. And I think these are the directions you can go for, and you can learn and go into that. But I would not guarantee that everything stays in 5 years still. So it could be that it changes everything again. Perhaps some other points from the other people.
ChatGPT.
Oh, I think that was a great answer. I think there's a couple more questions, so maybe we just keep.
Okay. So what would best strategies, websites, newsletters to keep up with the future of work? And there's another half to the question is best skills to upskill on. So the first one is, what are the best strategies, websites, newsletters to keep up with the future of work? Dan, do you want to do that first?
Yeah. So there's a lot out there. Kind of an acquaintance of a friend of mine. Obviously, you're probably all familiar with Josh Bersin. If you're not, he's a great HR strategist who does a great job of analyzing the landscape. So if you go to his website, you can follow him on LinkedIn. Absolutely. We put out a lot of thought leadership too on future trends, more specific to culture in the future of work. So feel free to connect with me, and we have a mailing list you can opt into or opt out of. And I'm assuming, I know Kevin has some great research as well. So reach out to him and kind of get on his mailing list, and so there's a lot of good stuff out there. There's I would say conferences to pay attention to that really talk about the future of work, that are great, that are global in nature. One is called Unleash. So it's UNLEASH. It's a global conference. Even just checking out their website, they post some really interesting content. They have great conferences around the globe. That's one I would follow and watch. And then of course, webcasts like this, keep attending that. And as far as best skills, I'll let others jump in here, but communication is key. Problem solving is key. Agility is key, and how to sort of best ideas rise to the surface, and how do we create communication skills and collaboration skills where we can take in all ideas and have healthy debates, and that's why I think communication is such a key skill set. And then of course, creativity and problem solving are critical skills. So that would be my answer there.
Nice to have you back, Kevin. How did the conference go? The other one.
No, it was very good. Very good.
You're pretty
But-
you're a valuable asset right now. Pretty sought after. Okay, Kevin, would you like to go for the second half, which says best skills to upskill on? The same question?
Oh, well, I think Dan nailed it. I think that you can't, the social skills are absolutely must. And, especially for anyone who's on the tech side as well. I mean, collaboration and team-based work is not going to minimize, it's just going to increase in its importance. And when you also think about the utilization of technology, so there are healthcare institutions that I've spoken with recently that, one went from, I think it was 2,000 telehealth visits to over 1.5 million telehealth visits from 2020 to 2022. That's not going to shrink unless they decide to claw back and not evolve with the future of work, but they know they have to continue to evolve. And so with that, it's how do you train yourself on how to use technology to better engage as well with other audiences. And what I would also suggest, especially for anyone who's an HR executive on this call, the critical thinking is absolutely essential. There's just too much acceptance out there around HR practitioners on things like, for instance, attrition. Show me what our attrition is versus this other organization. Well, first off, it doesn't matter versus any other organization. It only matters how it's doing against you and how you're trending. But attrition on a general front means nothing. You should be asking yourself questions around where it exists, why it exists, at what levels it exists, et cetera, and get to the root cause. Root cause analysis doesn't happen enough. And one of the questions that we encourage so many, a good example of critical thinking is asking yourself, what has to be true for this to succeed? Whether it's the overall business strategy, whether it's the initiative that you're pursuing, what has to be true for it to succeed? And don't just take the first answer at face value as being the only truth. Go deep. And if you identify, you may know, hey, one of our truths is this. Okay, then ask yourself, if that's true, what has to be true for that to succeed? Go deep. And what I would recommend everyone thinking about here is, if you cannot create a dark, thick line between what it is you're proposing and the outcome that everyone desires, you better go back and reanalyze what you're doing and rethink it, because it will not make sense to anyone else. And oftentimes it doesn't mean, or it means that you shouldn't be pursuing it in the first place. So you have to understand the critical leading indicators that lead to the lagging indicators. So I'll just leave it at that around critical thinking.
That is excellent. So Floyd, do you want to say something on those lines? Floyd.
Yes, I'd like to add to what Kevin, Marcus, and Dan have already said. Yeah, hello, can you hear me? Bissy, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. So if you imagine your professional skill set as built up of 4 pillars, right? So I would say one of those pillars would be your functional expertise, whichever function you're in, marketing, finance, whatever. The second would be your technical expertise related to your function, because right now we are in the world of tech. So if you cannot in some way connect what you do with a technical enablement, which helps you to either scale up or to make better data decisions, then you are missing the boat. The third element, what I would say, would be relationships. Relationships, because at the end of the day, you're working with people, through people, and given the work from anywhere concept, you should be able to hold professional relationships in spite of not having physical proximity to people. So that becomes very important. And the fourth one, I would say, is basically a whole set of soft skills which Dan, Kevin, and Marcus very well said. Critical thinking, elements of decision making, all these would add up. So I would basically cluster them around these 4 pillars so that your professional skill set can not only enable you to handle whatever the future throws at you, but also builds into you that confidence that you can handle whatever the future throws at you. That would be my submission. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, I think we have a lot of material that just been spoken about, especially original material. So it is, it's amazing. And I think a lot of people lost out is because I guess we did not send reminders. So I think it's my bad. The last time we had sent them reminders, and on LinkedIn, they were like around 100 attendees. It's okay. There is one more question, and this is for Dan. Dan, can you please speak to how your organization engaged leaders who may have struggled with commitment to human-centered strategies? Wow.
Yeah, it's a big question. And Amanda, thanks for asking that. I'll try to do this really short. I know we're a little bit over. Feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn. I'd be happy to talk about this. So the most important thing is, any change in life, you have to recognize, you have to be willing to let something go or evolve something, because based on that change, something in the future is going to be better than where you're at today. That's true with an individual change. That's true with people that go through addiction treatment. That's true with, with leaders who have to create more effective teams. So change takes commitment. And the first thing is a mindset, right? And you have to understand that if it feels overwhelming, or if it's a big sweeping change, it's easier to walk away and go back to our old habits. So behavior change happens in sort of micro moments, right? In the flow of work, little things that you can tweak here and there. And so when we talk about change, we kind of think about it first as a mindset. And that mindset includes the courage to change. And I've talked about this already. Connections around you to help motivate you, right, to continue to move forward and change, right? The humility to sort of be willing to say, I don't know how to do this, I need help. The empathy to hear other perspectives to help guide you through that change. And leaders need to show up like this. The transparency of letting everyone know where we're at. And if we're not making progress, let's talk about it. Let's figure out why. And then, of course, commitment, right? Commitment. We're making change for a reason. What's our North Star? Where are we going, right? If you want to have a better body, you want to feel healthier, you're not going to go to the gym for 4 hours and say, I'm there, right? It's a lifelong commitment. You're going to go a little bit, and eventually you'll see, I'm feeling better, I'm looking better, I'm healthier, right? So change takes that commitment. And then the approach really fast is kind of based on 4 pillars. You have to be inspired to want to change, right? And that allows you to overcome the inertia. And with that change mindset, then you need to prepare, right? And preparation is key for sustainable change and sustainable, building human-centric strategies. So preparing means, do we have the right technologies? Do we have the right people? Do we have the right organizational structure? Do we have the right skills, right? And then activation. And that's experimentation too. So activation of new process, activation of new transformative technologies, whatever that might be comfortable experimenting. And then answering, like learning from what's working, what's not. Then you get into that loop, right, of activating and answering. And that is how you ultimately can create more of a human-centered workplace. And if you get it all right, sustainable change starts to occur. But again, it's that mindset, it's that commitment to approach. And with that, there will be human outcomes and sustained change. Really fast answer to a very, very, very massive question. But again, feel free to reach out to me, and happy to talk to you about it.
Kevin, do you want to take on that one?
I don't think I've got anything else to add.
Okay, that's good. Any of the other panelists? Okay, so there are quite a few compliments to the speakers, and yeah, I think that's the end of the questions, I think. So 3 more. Yeah, I think that's the end. So we have best strategies. Okay, that's taken care of. Okay. Okay. Is there anything else that the speakers, the panelists want to leave the audience with? Any suggestions, anything that's come to your mind? I know we're running out of time, but if you all have anything more to say, we have a distinguished panelist here. So
I'll just want to thank my incredible panelists, and thanks everyone for spending 2 hours with us. And hopefully, you pulled some interesting insights out of this. So just thank you is my last statement.
Yeah, I'd like to just share one thing to what Dan said, that people change when they believe that the gain from change is bigger than the pain of change. I think that makes a significant difference. So you're willing to change because your future is going to be better than your past. And thanks everyone for being with us and listening to us and sharing with us your thoughts and questions. Thank you, Bissy, for organizing this. And thanks to all the panelists.
Yeah, thanks to all the panelists. It was an amazing session.
Thank you.
So
Go ahead, Marcus.
Yeah, Marcus, go ahead.
I can only repeat what you said before, Dan and Floyd. Yeah, great session. I really enjoyed it to be here also and part of that. And thanks a lot to all of you, and thanks to the audience.
And I'll just add one thing. Everything Marcus, Dan, and Floyd said, and I'll leave it on this. I think the obvious thing, but I'll state it, is we live in an era where the goal is no longer to manage change, is to manage amid change, and which requires you to constantly evolve. And what I would suggest is this, that anytime there is a strategic shift to any business, digitization, M&A, hybrid work, anything, it requires a commensurate shift in culture in order to support that strategic shift. And the only way that culture is going to shift is if you shift how you lead. And so then the talent practices need to support that as well. So you, if you're a leader, are instrumental in this, and you will either change or you will become irrelevant and be the one that stops your organization from the change it needs. So thank you all.
Yeah, I think you hit.
Thanks from my side also. Thank you, our panelists and audience, and Bissy ma'am for organizing everything.
Thank you so much. It was an amazing session. Thanks to the panelists. And we hope that you all would come again and give us some more time. It was amazing. We'll try and, build around some more sessions similarly. And I hope you guys are game for that. So we look forward to all the panelists coming and joining us again. And thank you, audience, for being an amazing audience. We love the questions. We love the encouragement. If I have to read the list, it's pretty huge. It's compliments to all the speakers specifically. So thank you so much for the encouragement and for this amazing day and the session and a very important topic. So thank you, and we shall call it a day.
Okay, bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.